These two men, Justly Johnson and Kendrick Scott, are serving life for this murder. Lawyers for the Innocence Project have been fighting for years to get Johnson a new trial, saying this case is riddled with flaws, inconsistencies, and police misconduct. Now Action News is cracking open a whole new can of worms. You're about to hear from this man who says he knows exactly what happened that night. He was 8.5 years old at the time, sitting in the front seat, right next to his mom when she was shot. A pile of glass marks the spot where Lisa Kindred was shot on Bewick Street in 1999. The 35-year-old mom was behind the wheel of her minivan when someone fired a single shot from a .22 through the driver's side window right into her heart. She threw the van into drive and took off with her 3 kids inside, including a 10-day-old baby. She made it to this gas station 2 blocks away, got out, took a couple of steps, collapsed, and died. Cops quickly arrested and charged 2 young men from the neighborhood, 24-year-old Justly Johnson and 20-year-old Kendrick Scott. Cops called it a robbery gone bad. If police had talked to Kindred's 8.5-year-old son, they might have come to a different conclusion.
What would you say about that?
I would say that's nonsense. There was no physical contact between the guy and my mother.
Nobody said, give me your purse, or this is a holdup, anything like that?
Not at all.
C.J. Skinner says the gunman just walked up to the car and fired. And remember, 2 men were sent to prison for the crime.
Are you certain, C.J., that it was 1 person and not 2?
I'm positive.
Did you see the person who did this?
Yes.
Could you identify them?
Yes.
Did the police ever question you?
No.
Never?
Never.
Never looked at a photo lineup?
Never.
My God, this is huge. These kids are sharp. These kids are aware, they're observant, and they see what's going on. And why in the world they never talk to this kid is beyond me.
Mike Carlisle, a retired Detroit homicide detective, reviewed the Kindred case for Action News when we first reported on it last May. He called the original police investigation shoddy and said their robbery gone bad theory made no sense at all. Carlisle says C.J. Skinner reinforces his feelings that this was a hit.
My goodness, it's just one big witness that was just completely overlooked, and what a big mistake that was.
In a minute, you'll hear how the Michigan Innocence Project is jumping on this new information we've just uncovered. Right now, let me explain why I decided to track down C.J. Skinner, where I found him, and why I had to talk to him on the phone. It adds an interesting wrinkle to the case. Action News poured through hundreds of pages of police records and court transcripts investigating the Kindred murder. There's no indication anyone had ever talked to Kindred's son CJ, not the police, not the prosecutor or defense attorneys. I just had a gut feeling he knew something. I was surprised when I finally found him in Fayette Prison in Pennsylvania, where he's serving time for, of all things, a perjury conviction.
My best friend, he got in trouble for a double murder. An attempted murder, and I really didn't want nothing to do with the whole situation, so I told him I ain't know it.
So, can people believe what you would say about your mother's murder if you're jailed on perjury right now?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's my mother.
When I found out Skinner was in prison, I sent him this letter asking him if he'd seen anything on that night in 1999. He wrote back saying, "I will never forget the face of the man who murdered my mother." And Skinner's description doesn't seem to fit either man who was convicted.
How old was this man you saw shoot?
He had to be in his early 30s at the time.
Remember, the men police arrested were younger, 20 and 24. Skinner says the shooter had a very bushy beard, very short hair, or a bald head, and a very conspicuous nose.
You know, not huge, but I mean, like, it expanded over his face. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was prominent.
Skinner says he'd recognize the killer if he saw a picture of him from 1999, and he says he's never seen pictures of the 2 men convicted of his mom's murder.
And if you looked at the pictures and one of them was the shooter, you'd say so?
Yes, sir.
Had CJ been shown a fair photo array or a fair physical lineup back in 1999, it's very likely we wouldn't be here now.
Lawyers from the Michigan Innocence Clinic and the Wisconsin Innocence Project, working to get Justly Johnson a new trial, have exhausted all of their appeals in state court. This new information uncovered by the investigators could open a whole new door.
We're going to want to talk to CJ. Either in person or over the phone. We're going to want to try and verify some of the details that he's given in that interview and see if this is something that we should be taking back to state court.
Just this week, the Innocence Clinic filed a last-ditch appeal in federal court. They're asking that judge to put that on hold for now till they can investigate this new information uncovered by Channel 7. They're also considering taking on the case of the second man convicted, Kendrick Scott. The clinic's lawyer, Dave Moran, says C.J. Skinner's perjury conviction certainly doesn't help, but it's not a deal breaker. He says Skinner had a reason to lie in the recent perjury case, but no reason to lie about what he saw when his mother was murdered. Scott Lewis, Channel 7 Action News.